story begins in the Grand Hall of the Kingdom of Cryroad, where sacred summoning ritual unfolds. The air is thick with anticipation as mages chant incantations, their voices resonating through the ornate chamber. Magical circles glow beneath their feet, pulsating with energy from ancient texts and relics. The kingdom, embroiled in a relentless war against the Dark One and his formidable demon army, seeks heroes from other worlds to tip the scales in their favor. Among the summoned is Banaza, a humble merchant from the royal capital Paluma. He was the 198th successfully summoned hero candidate. He was welcomed by the castle's maid and asked him to come. Unlike the seasoned warriors and mages typically chosen, Banaza's appearance is unassuming. Clad in simple attire, he lacks the aura of a battle-hardened hero. Confusion and apprehension cloud his features as he takes in the unfamiliar surroundings and the gravity of his situation. Banaza asked where he is and what place he is in, is trying to explain to the maid that he was just at the loading area when suddenly he was summoned out of nowhere. The maid is rushing and asking him to come quickly because the next hero candidate will be summoned shortly, right after Banaza was summoned. Banaza is so clueless and asking what his job is because he just got summoned out of nowhere. The maid stopped pulling her and mentioned that she would show Banaza the ability measuring crystal ball. Banaza was surprised to hear about the ability because he doesn't have any. The kingdom's officials, including high-ranking knights and scholars, proceed to evaluate the capabilities of the summoned individuals. Banza asked the maid of the castle if there was something wrong in Cryroad, because even though he was summoned and called a hero candidate, he was just a merchant. The maid didn't believe him, and insisted that Banaza may not know that there is latent power hidden within the body of Banaza. The maid happily showed what Cryroad looks like outside, which is called the Country of Magic. Banaza was so amazed and surprised seeing the country, while the maid was asking him what kind of country Banaza lives in, because the country where Cryroad exists is in a different world after all. The two of them just stared at the beautiful landscape of the country that is full of magic. Banaza can't believe what he is seeing, and just looks outside while they're in the castle. Banaza asked the maid about Cryroad's business relationship with other countries because he had never heard of a country known as Cryroad before, since, as a merchant, he had been in different countries before. The maid didn't answer and just kept silent. The maid explained that they are in a different world because of the long fight against the demon army. The kingdom felt great despair and was on the brink of collapsing until Cryroad then decided to summon a hero from a different world capable of defeating the demons and countering the invasion. Banaza explained to the maid that he didn't know about that, and asked if it was a tradition of the kingdom to summon a hero from another world. However, the maid just shows Banaza the way, and Banaza suggests that it is better to just appoint a strong person as the hero of the country of Cryroad. As they entered the room where they needed to go, Banaza was so surprised to see creatures wearing clothes, and he couldn't see the face of the creatures that were surprised at the presence of Banaza, who had just entered the room. Everything was looking at Banaza and the maid. Each of the hero candidates is subjected to a series of tests measuring magical aptitude, combat skills, and growth potential. The results for most are promising, eliciting nods of approval and strategic discussions. The maid led the way for Banaza to check and test the power of Banaza to see if he would be classified as a hero. For those who were brought from another world to the kingdom of Cryroad, they are given a blessing from God. Those blessings give them skills that no one else can obtain. So Banaza places his hands in front of the magic crystal. The maid of the castle helped him, and the magic crystal emitted bright light that made them all surprised. When Banaza's turn arrives, the atmosphere shifts. The maid shouted that it's the revelation of God. The evaluators exchange puzzled glances as his results display abysmal stats, negligible magic, no combat proficiency, and no discernible special abilities. Murmurs ripple through the hall, and the initial excitement gives way to disappointment. Banaza is level 1, and has low scores that make all the creatures inside the room surprised, while Banaza was so amazed that he could read the language of the world normally. He reads and sees the abilities shown on the test. He is not disappointed, because that's what he expects for a merchant like him. The maid was shocked at the stats of Banaza and couldn't believe that one of the summoned did not have the revelation of God. While Banaza is clueless because everyone is expecting something of him, he is just a normal merchant in his world. They look further and realize that the abilities of Banaza are the abilities of an average adult male. Banaza just agreed with the maid, since even the maid is still wondering what happened, because for them this is an impossible case because they summoned a hero candidate with the ability of an average adult male. Banaza insisted that he had just told the maid earlier that he was just a merchant on their world. For them, this is a great failure, summoning Banaza to their world. The creatures and the man with the cloak are so mad at Banaza and think of him as a failure. They are asking to return Banaza to his world, while the others say that they should check again because it's unnatural to have nothing, and also, the teleport gate connected to another worlds are already closed, so Banaza can't go back. Banaza is just listening to those men wearing a cloak. And suddenly, one of the maids shouted. Banaza and the others were surprised by the action of one of the maids. Turning their heads towards a maid, they saw her kneeling on the floor while crying. The maid says that one of the hero candidates is a man who is capable of becoming the legendary hero who has appeared. The men wearing the clothes are magicians who got interrupted together with the maid due to the summoning of a blonde hero, a man with stats comparable to those of a real hero. The disappointment on the face of the creatures inside the castle shed turned into excitement as they saw the blonde hero. Banaza saw the hero and was surprised because it looked like a normal human, but with a different status than his. Banaza looked at the stats of the blonde hero and understand why he became a hero, because the blonde hero has almost 1,000 points in every aspect of his abilities. The blonde hero is also clueless, but he thinks that he has been chosen as the hero to save the world they are in. As the blonde hero claimed that he would be the hero of the Kingdom Cryroad, everyone was so excited and happy. They all agreed that the blonder hero is correct and the kingdom's chosen hero. They are all asking the blonde hero to save the kingdom. The maid, magician, and all the creatures inside the room gathered with the blonde hero as they praised the newly chosen hero to save them. They all cheer happily for the blonde hero and welcome him, and all of them don't care about what will happen to the other hero candidate, like Banaza. All of the people or creatures in the kingdom are busy thinking that they will get salvation from the blonde hero. They have often been told that the hero will save them all. The king of the kingdom declares that the blonde-haired knight is the new hero of their kingdom and will save them from the enemy. Everyone was happy with the king's decision to appoint the blonde-haired knight as their new hero. They all celebrated for it, and the king held a banquet for the blonde king. Banaza was left alone and clueless about what was happening because in just a snap, everyone became busy as the king held a banquet. Banaza was in the middle of the busy villagers, enjoying the banquet. One of the waiters offered him a drink before he tried to ask what had happened. Banaza doesn't know anyone in that world and is trying to ask how he can get home or whom he can ask what to do. However, everyone is so busy and doesn't want to get bothered by Banaza. He just wanted to go home, and he doesn't know what will happen next. The banquet happened at night and finished in the morning. As the people in the castle come, Banaza tries to reach out for someone and ask about what will happen next. The maids and the other helpers inside the castle were busy cleaning and doing their chores. Banaza got closer to one of the maids whom he recognized, who helped him the first time he got there. The maid faced her and asked how he could help Banaza, who was so happy because someone had already listened to him and spoke with him. Banaza happily introduced himself again to the maid who had helped him before. He asked the maid if the maid did not remember him because he was one of the summon hero candidates as well before the banquet. The maid was confused and trying to remember what the hero candidate does Banaza is trying to say. Then the maid just realized that Banaza is one of the hero candidates before the blonde-haired knight who was declared the kingdom's hero. The maid was so shocked to see Banaza and couldn't believe that Banaza was still in their world. The maid asked Banaza why he was still in their world, but Banaza was so clueless about what the maid was asking him because he didn't know how to go back and nobody told him how to get back to his world. Banaza can't believe on what the maid just said to him. The maid feels like it's her fault because Banaza is still on their world. She feels sad and scared about what might have happened to Banaza and her. The maid said that the summoning of a hero candidate is very difficult because if the gate were still open, Banaza would be able to return. Banaza thinks that he can go home as he heard the maid say something about the gate. However, the maid added that once the gate has been closed, it is almost impossible to open the same gate for Banaza to return to his original world. The maid fell on the floor and felt bad for Banaza, who was terrified and surprised at what happened, because his simple life was changed by just summoning him into another world where he didn't know anyone. Banaza was stuck in his position, and to the world where he is, he can't believe that there's any way for him to go back to his world. He badly wants to go back to his world, and wants to live the life he had in his world, so the maid helps her, and he speaks with the king. Banaza and the king talk, but right after the king knows about what happened, he asks for a carriage. The king understands the case of the ineligible hero candidate, which is Banaza. The king acknowledged that Banaza's failure to return to his world was a grave mistake on the king on behalf of the entire country of Cryo, and the king sincerely apologized to Banaza. The king, seeking to maintain morale and avoid public embarrassment, decides to dismiss Banaza. Officially, he is to be relocated to the remote Delavisa forest, ostensibly to live a peaceful life away from the kingdom's affairs. Unbeknownst to Banaza, this forest is perilous, teeming with monsters and devoid of civilization. The relocation is a thinly veiled exile, intended to remove him from the equation permanently. For Banaza, he was thrown out, and the king let him just stay in the forest in the north of the kingdom to give him special permission to live in the world of Cryo. Banaza was so sad and clueless about what he should do because he was just thrown out into the forest after being summoned for no reason. He understood that he was disqualified as a hero, so he could not stay in the castle, but it was frustrating for him since they had just been summoned. The king should have explained it a little better before summoning him from their world. However, Banaza is on his way towards the forest and has just noticed the coachman that is escorting him. Banaza tries to talk with the coachman, who is a lizard man. They were told not to talk to Banaza, so the coachman turned his head away from Banaza and ignored him, even though it was so hard not to talk back to Banaza, who didn't know where he was going and what he should do. Banaza tries to tease the lizard man and speak with him, even though they are commanded not to speak with Banaza. He insisted to the lizard man that the lizard man should talk to him because he's not part of the country of Cryo and does not know much about the area. The lizard man was pissed on Banaza, who are so stubborn, and insisting to talk with him. Banaza is just smiling at the lizard man while holding on the window of the carriage. The lizard man kept his mouth shut and didn't want to speak with Banaza. So Banaza says that the king of the country of Cryo is willing to sign a slave contract with someone who isn't a human. It makes the lizard man get pissed because he wills like they were a slave and have a contract with the king, since they are not human. The lizard man stared at Banaza as he heard it. Suddenly, it smiled at Banaza and laughed. Then the lizard man said that Banaza also came from a distant country, too, not knowing that Banaza is from another world. The lizard man added that he is certain that the pay for his job as a coachman is very low, but they were not slaves. Banaza was surprised as the lizard man spoke with him and happily answered him. Banaza apologizes to the lizard man for thinking that the lizard man are slave of the king and the country. He explained that on the world he came from, there were no subhuman species that could work without a slave contract binding them. The lizard man just listened to him while he happily explained his story while they were traveling. The lizard man just listened to Banaza and understood why Banaza badly wanted to speak with him. Banaza started explaining that he had come to a different world, and he is so relieved that he is now speaking with someone as they travel somewhere he didn't know. Minutes before the summoning, in the kingdom of Balma, where Banaza came from, he is in the wagon exclusive loading area as a merchant, and everyone was so busy with their work. One of the goblins asked Banaza happily if the luggage of Banaza was already ready and prepared. Banaza happily greets the goblin named Mr. Kuro, and they say hi to each other. Banaza added that there may be an additional 45 crates depending on the negotiation. The goblin agreed and asked Banaza if he could wait a little for them to prepare breakfast while they were preparing the luggage. Banaza is negotiating happily and having some business transactions with subhuman, but the other humans saw it. Humans are not okay seeing Banaza as a human giving money to subhuman like goblins. Others insist that Banaza should have given it to the goblin in an alley because the subhumans may start to think that humans would give them money, but Banaza is fine with it and didn't care about what the other humans said. Banaza gives money to Mr. Kuro as payment for the negotiation they have. However, the goblin declined the payment of Banaza because even though they appreciate how Banaza treats them fairly, the goblins are part of the demon folk, so humans like Banaza don't have to pay them for any favor or any transaction. Banaza insisted that he doesn't care if they are demon folk or goblins because for Banaza, the goblin is Mr. Kuro and a merchant like him. Banaza asked the goblin if he was waiting to trade with him because if Banaza did not pay the goblin, it would leave a bad taste for them. Mr. Kuro, the goblin trying to insist to Banaza his point about the payment because humans did not pay the creatures that are part of the demon folk. Out of nowhere, Quinn showed up. He interrupted Mr. Kuro and said that once Banaza has decided to do something, he will not stop until it's done. The goblin just listened as Quinn added that they should just go with it because their caravan master is very persistent, which is Banaza, who can't say a thing as Quinn says everything already. Quinn just won the negotiation with the goblin leader, Mr. Kuro. Every goblin on the loading area is busy with their jobs exporting and importing goods. Suddenly, Mr. Kuro shouted to gather all the goblins. All of the goblins stop what they are doing and wait for the order of their leader, Mr. Kuro. He commanded everyone that they would all go and follow Banaza. Every goblin happily cheered and agreed with the captain. They are all shouting and raising their hands as a sign of excitement and joy. Banaza expresses his gratitude to those who helped and saved him in his negotiation with Mr. Kuro. Quinn just smiled at him and said that he always saves Banaza as usual. The other human on the loading area kept judging the subhumans, which included the goblin, together with Banaza. They also called Banaza and the other a bunch of hypocrites and smirked at them. For them, the action of Banaza with the goblin is inappropriate. Banaza heard the other human and felt bad about how they treat the other kind. Just because the goblins are a subhuman species, the humans treat them like that. Banaza thinks and wonders if there is a world without such discrimination against other races. While Quinn is checking the inventory, she mentions that there are only a few people in their kingdom who say that people don't want others to profit more than them, after all. Banaza insists that he doesn't think that it is strange to make friends with others from different species, like goblins. Banaza didn't care what others would say because for him, it is normal to make friends with people of different races and treat them normally. Suddenly, Banaza feels something on his hand while he's explaining to Quinn, and it's glowing, so he looks at it. Banaza was surprised and terrified by what was happening to him. His hand kept glowing and moving like something was coming out of it. He tried to call Quinn and ask for help, but the bright light from Banaza's hand blinded everyone. Quinn is so busy with her job and the inventory of their export and import, she didn't notice Banaza as the light blinded them. They were all shocked that as the light came out, Banaza vanished from where he was standing. Quinn tries to call and look for Banaza. As Banaza vanished, a voice was heard out of nowhere, verifying that they got Banaza. Someone asked if those who got teleported to another world are in the same classes as they were in the other world. Banaza just explained his whole story to the coachman as he remembered. They didn't notice that they had already reached their destination, the forest of the Delaveza. The lizard man showed him the forest and helped him out of the carriage. He also explained to Banaza that his contract is to bring Banaza to the forest of Delaveza. Banaza happily shakes hands with the lizard man and thanks the lizard man for the smooth 20-day journey they have to travel from the castle to the forest. The lizard man was surprised by the action of Banaza that might face incredible danger in the forest. The lizard man felt bad about what might happen to Banaza, so he explained that there was a rumor that the demon army was spotted around the area of Delaveza Forest. Even though they are not allowed to speak with Banaza, he tries to inform Banaza because of the genuine kindness Banaza showed towards him, even as a subhuman. Banaza asks the lizard man why it speaks with him, even though they weren't supposed to talk to him, while smiling. The lizard man just realized it and smiled, then said goodbye to Banaza and went back to the city. Banaza, unaware of the true nature of his assignment, embarks on his journey to Delaveza Forest. He watched as the carriage brought him back to the castle. Banaza that there were no towns nor people around the forest, even after 20 days by carriage, showed no sign of life. The king only gave him a magic bag as an apology for the inconvenience happened to him. Banaza didn't know what to do in the forest or what to do with the magic bag that was given to him. He thinks that since it's a magic bag, it might contain treasure, and he happily gets it and checks it. He badly wants to see what's inside the magic bag, but he doesn't even know how to look inside, so he thinks that it might probably be empty anyway. Banaza also thinks that it seems the usage of a magic bag is not so different from the ones in his original world. He tries to shake and rub it to see if there's something inside it. Then suddenly, the magic bag lights up and shows a table of contents of what's inside the bag. As the magic bag showed what it contained, he read what was inside. He realized that he was provided with minimal supplies, basic provisions, a rudimentary weapon, and a pouch of coins. The king gave him 100,000 gold coins, 1 set of house, 20 sets of clothes, 8 sets of weapons, and 3 sets of agricultural tools. Then he just remembered what the lizard man had just mentioned to him, and he realized that he had a weapon set because of the demon army sightings. Banaza is now calmly analyzing his situation since he doesn't have to worry about food and shelter for a while because he has the tools and gold coins. He could also build a house right away, so he pulled one of the weapon sets inside the magic bag. He was shocked to see a sword, thinking about what to do with it because he is a merchant and not a warrior or hero. Banaza is examining the blade and the hilt of the sword since he is a merchant who sells items. He was amazed that the sword in the magic bag looked too fancy to fight against the demon army. He doesn't know how to use it because he has never fought anyone in his whole life. The path inside the forest of Delaveza is arduous, winding through treacherous terrain and dense woodlands. As he ventures deeper, the signs of danger become evident. Claw marks on trees, eerie howls in the distance, and the absence of any human settlements. Banaza, attempting to gather firewood, encounters a low-level monster, a slime out of nowhere. Banaza just stared at the slime, waiting and thinking about what his next move was. Despite its unassuming appearance, the creature lunges at him with surprising speed. The wild slime suddenly jumped in the sky and tried to attack him, so he panicked and didn't know what to do. Banaza just screams and asks the wild slime to wait. He doesn't know if he will run and where to run. He was so terrified seeing the wild slime fly in the sky and come closer to him. The wild slime attacks him without hesitation, and as it gets closer, Banaza panics. Instinctively, Banaza swings his weapon to protect himself from the wild creature, striking the slime and causing it to dissolve into a puddle. The wild slime got a hit from the sword that Banaza swung. It was sliced in half because of the power of the strike of Banaza. He didn't know what happened and just closed his eyes while trying to protect himself from the wild slime. Banaza ended the enemy immediately without sweating. As Banaza opens his eyes, he is surprised that he got the wild slime and defeated it with the sword inside the magic bag. He was so grateful that he defeated the enemy even though he just swung his sword. Banaza just noticed that the blade of the sword is already breaking after that swing and defeating the enemy. He just realized that the sword given to him was not that good, but something pops up. Banaza was shocked seeing his stats again. In that moment, a surge of energy courses through him. A notification materializes before his eyes, indicating that he has leveled up. But this is no ordinary progression. His stats, previously negligible, now display the symbol for infinity. Every attribute, strength, agility, magic, has reached immeasurable levels. For him, the infinity is an unfamiliar symbol on his status. Banaza saw that he became level 2, and all his attributes have the same symbol. His power, defense, agility, magic, HP, and skill are all the same and have the same special character, and it's not a number. He was so clueless and wondered what it meant because it was new to him. Banaza tries to understand and wonder what the meaning of the marks on his attributes and skills is. He remembers that when he first saw the status of his attributes at the castle, his stats were very low and almost zero. He added that he can't read all the characters in the language of the New World, Isin, so he thought that the special character he just saw was nothing or about being weak. Suddenly, a passive skill was activated, and he didn't know what was happening. Banaza is overwhelmed by the transformation. He senses a newfound vitality, his senses heightened, and an innate understanding of complex magic. He was so amazed as different tabs went around him, and each of them looked like the tabs that showed his stats, but the tabs that showed up contained some information about new skills. New active and passive skills started to show up and active, which makes Banaza so loaded with all the information he saw and trying to slow things down. He tries to give him time because he won't be able to remember all of those new skills if he gets it all at once. However, while Banaza was busy with the new skills showing on his tabs, a warning sign appeared out of nowhere that was noticed immediately by Banaza. He tries to read and analyze the warning sign, which says that there's a concealed magic detected. Then the magic bag ring shows 3 choices of magic. The first is location detection magic that is used to notify the owner of its location. The second is force teleport magic that is used to forcefully teleport to the owner of the magic. And the third is the demonic incentive magic, which attracts nearby demons. As Banaza saw the magic, he understood that the slime from earlier was induced, and he thought it might be because of the bag too. However, the weapon is holding that he used earlier is a cheap sword that is useless as is almost broken, even if he just uses it. The thing or enemy that caused the warning earlier is coming over to him. As the unknown enemy is getting closer, Banaza thinks that he will going to die soon. Even though he accepts his faith in the new world isn't right now, he still feels that he needs to live longer and not die alone in a different world. Surprisingly, the system notified Banaza again and a tab asking if he wants to remove it or not shows up. He was shocked and clueless that it could be removed, so he immediately forcibly canceled the magic granted to him. Banaza is now holding the magic bag and just looking at it. He was thinking that it's a magic that could easily be removed. He doesn't know what he really wanted and just kept the magic bag while he thinks about what his next move is and where he should go next. Realizing the extent of his abilities, Banaza understands that he has become a being of unparalleled power, yet his desires remain humble. Banaza thinks that it's useless to think about it, so he just looks for a temporary area to live. Upon reaching the forest's edge, Banaza sets up a modest camp. He reflects on his abrupt displacement, grappling with feelings of inadequacy and abandonment. The serenity of the forest is deceptive, masking the lurking threats that await. Banaza saw a warning again that the forest he was entering was contaminated with severe magic, and he was surprised that there were more warnings about the forest and everything. He noticed that it's magic again. The tab explains that the magic's general form is liquid or gas that contains dark element magic particles that caused by a powerful dark element area attack by demons. It had fatal damage to human-type races, and the system asked Banaza if he wanted to purify the forest, but there was a note saying that purifying the whole forest would use 1/3 of his total magic power. Banaza just answered the system happily, that if he could, then he definitely would do it. However, he wonders how high his magical power is because he has to live there. Banaza decided to purify the forest and use his magic power as shown on the tab, showing by his system. A huge magical circle started to appear as Banaza pressed the yes button on casting the purifying spell. His magic let him fly in the sky, and the magic started to happen when the light started to get brighter, and the light came from the Banaza. He is speechless at what he is seeing. Together with the light that shined brighter, a wind blew stronger together with the light. It is because of the magic spell that was cast by Banaza, who is so amazed at what's happening, because this is the first time he has used this kind of power. In the Cry Road Castle, the king was peacefully eating, and suddenly, the princess entered the room, rushing to tell something to his father something. The princess is catching her breath, and says that even if Banaza was ineligible, it is too cruel to throw a hero candidate into a forest of Delaveza. The king asked the first princess about what he considered too cruel about his decision, while the king was calmly drinking. The first princess added that she heard a hero candidate who could not return to his former world due to the kingdom's mistake was left in the forest of Delaveza. She is referring to Banaza, and the princess is so concerned about what might happen to him because there were rumors about the forest that it has a base that the demon army established. The king told Banaza to live in the forest without telling the danger that he might face. The king just continues eating and doesn't care about what might happen to Banaza and what the first princess is trying to explain. The king insists that it is too costly for the kingdom to fight the demon army right now, and it can't be helped, especially not a failure of a hero like Banaza. The princess tries to insist on her point, but suddenly a magician called the king. He is rushing towards the king because of a serious matter. The king was irritated because he was talking with the princess and asked the magician what had happened. The magician gets closer to the king and kneels to the floor and reports that the sacred top-ranking magic, Purification magic, has traces of it being evoked. The magician was surprised and trying to figure out who cast the spell, but the king was not surprised and just happy to hear the report. The king thought that the blonde hero knight was the one who departed and had started his suppression. The first princess heard the report and was surprised by what had just happened. The king boastfully replied to the magician that the blonde hero was already capable of using top-ranking magic and that he was truly a 1 in 100 years talent. The The king also added that he was right to appoint the blonde-haired knight as their new hero. However, the magician insists to the king that it might be wrong because the purification magic that was released did not come from the south, where the hero was heading. The king was shocked and stopped from drinking as he heard the magician, because the king thought that the one who cast the spell was the newly declared hero. The magician added that the purification magic was evoked in the far northern forest of Delaveza. The king and the first princess were shocked to hear it and couldn't believe that the magic was not from the blonde-haired knight hero. While Banaza, on the other hand, is still in the forest and just finished casting the purification spell, that he doesn't know how powerful in the world of Cryo. The light and wind vanished after Banaza finished casting the spell, and for him, nothing had happened. The purification magic is the highest ranking magic that can extinguish dark magic particles that harm the human body. It is also possible for it to destroy the bodies of demons from within the range of the spell. Purification magic can usually be evoked by gathering all the wizards in the country, because it is the ultimate magical weapon in the world, where the Cryo Kingdom is located. While in the forest of Delaveza, Banaza was casting the purification spell. The light blinded the forest, and the winds blew the trees. Every demon in the forest started to vanish as they were hit by the purification spell. The last demon left saw everything before he totally disappeared. The first unit of the demon army, led by one of the 4 Devis of the demon King Fengul, was annihilated instantly. Before they reported to the demon lord what happened, they all vanished as the purification spell was cast by Banaza. All the demons in the forest were turned into dust, and the forest became safe for humans because of the power of Banaza alone. On the opposite end of the forest of Delaveza, Banaza is clueless about what happens after he casts the purification spell. The forest became quiet, and Banaza, as a former hero candidate, felt that there were no dangerous things in the forest anymore. His eyes try to explore and look for any living things in the forest and check if there's any enemy so he can protect himself. Even Banaza was surprised by the spell he used because the purification spell was such a blinding light, and he didn't feel any change after using it. For him, there are no changes after the spell, but for the demon that vanished because of the spell, he is a powerful opponent to fight. Banaza was unaware of all the things he could do, and he was wondering how he could check his remaining magic power. Banaza didn't know how to call out the notification tab showing his power and skill, but as soon as he thought to do so, the notification bar suddenly appeared. He tried to look at his magic power, since there was a warning earlier that the purification spell would take 1/3 of his magic power. He checked his magic power, and it had indeed decreased, but suddenly it surged back to 100%. He can't believe that his magic power recovered quickly. Banaza is clueless about how it happened, and tries to check his stats too, since he wonders what happened to his skills as he levels up, since he thought that his magic power wasn't that big of a deal. He can't understand everything since it's new to him. As he checked the notification bar and looked for his level and stats, he was surprised that it notified him that he had leveled up again. Banaza's current level is 367, while his power, defense, agility, magic, HP, and skill are showing an infinity sign, which means it's already max. However, he still didn't know the meaning of the symbol of infinity. Banaza was surprised that he had leveled up from level 2 to level 367, even though he didn't defeat any monsters. He didn't know that when he used his purification spell, he wiped out the demons in the forest together with the Demon King and its army. Banaza just thinks that his level is going up by just using magic. He really didn't understand the meaning of infinity, and for him, it's a weird symbol that does not change even when he levels up. He thinks that the window showing his skills has an error. While Banaza is trying to understand everything about his skills and magic, he remembers what the castle maid said. The maid mentioned to him that the window display is intermediate magic, so he thinks that his magic power is too low to display it correctly. Since for Banaza, it is inconvenient for the window not to display the correct level up information, he turned the notice off and pushed the button on the window. He decided to turn it off and just leave it alone. However, Banaza was terrified of what might happen, and he hoped that there wouldn't be severe damage to him or his power. He is now alone in the forest and looking at the entrance of it, thinking about what to do since he is still understanding his power and skills capability. The notification bar shows that it is safe and no dark element detected, as the purification spell has been completed. The forest of Delaveza is purified because of the magic of Banaza, but he's still not allowed to live in the city. The people from the castle will kill Banaza if they see him going in and out of the city, but he badly wants to go to the city. Suddenly, the notification bar pops up and shows a recommendation to Banaza. It's a form transformation magic where the visibility of the figure of Banaza can be changed. As the recommendation spell appeared out of nowhere, Banaza was surprised and wondered whether he would press the yes button or not. In the end, Banaza decided to say yes and agreed to the form transformation magic. He clicks the yes button on the tab, where he's asked if he likes it or not. After he clicked it, his appearance started to change, and he was amazed because the other people won't notice that he's Banaza, the failure to be the hero of the kingdom. The gender option started to show up. He was surprised seeing it, and it asked him if he's male or female. Banaza clicks the female button, and then he turns into a girl. He feels that he has gotten smaller than before, and observes his body. He has breasts and wide hips that make him look like a beautiful lady. He made fun of the transformation spell, but suddenly realized that he might have to live with the form he chose, so he should take it more seriously. Banaza started choosing correctly from the choices and taking it seriously, but it became troublesome for him since there are many choices like what race it will be, height, hair, and more. He customizes his appearance based on his taste and answers the choices carefully. After he finished customizing and casting the form transformation spell, he started to wear different clothes. The form and appearance he chooses make him unrecognizable, that even if he goes in and out of the city, no one will know that he is Banaza. He noticed that all the clothes in the magic bag given to him were rags, and he needed to use the clothing repair magic on them so they would look decent. As Banaza finishes fixing the clothes and his appearance, the other problem he has is the huge distance from the town. It will take at least 20 days by carriage, so it might take more days if he walks. Out of nowhere, the notification bar showed up again as it sensed that Banaza needed some help about the long distance of the forest from the towns. It gives him an option if he wants to teleport to the castle using spatial magic. Banaza didn't know that he had that kind of magic, but of course, he clicked yes, so he can teleport and travel in a short period of time. Banaza uses spatial magic and teleport, and he was so amazed that in just a blink, he was in the Cry Road Castle town. He quickly reaches the city by just using the spatial magic. In Banaza's original world, only the very high-ranking magicians can use it. He thought that in Cry Road, teleportation is a magic that even normal people can do. He is not aware of how powerful he is to use the purification and teleportation spell. Spatial magic can make the caster teleport by pinpointing the location once they have gone there before, and it is also possible to teleport a group of people at once if the caster has enough magic to do it. Since Banaza uses the spatial magic successfully, he tries to use the spatial magic and pinpoint the Palma Kingdom, but it doesn't work. He wanted to go home, and he thought that the teleportation magic would work to travel from a different world to another, but he failed. Banaza tries to use the spatial magic to teleport from Cry Road to Palma, but it doesn't work, so Banaza just smiles. He already expected that it would not work. It's not possible to teleport to his original world. Instead of saying crying or being sad, he decided to start earning some money to live. Banaza stretches his arms and hands, looking to see if there are guilds in the world of Cryo. He didn't know anyone, and he could probably only join the Merchants Guild through connections. Back in their original world, he is a merchant, so he thinks that he might earn more if he joins a Merchants Guild. Since he doesn't have a connection, he thinks for other jobs he can do like pest control or escorting, but it is too early for him to join the Adventurers Guild. Banaza started walking around the town. He continued walking straight to the Cryo Castle Town Adventurers Association. He is passing the townspeople, busy with their own life. He saw how things work in the town, and how the human and subhuman live together. As he saw the logo of the association, he smiled and continued to walk towards it. He says that it's such a convenient world for him. Little did he know, when he was summoned to the world of Cryo, everything about him changed. His skills and powers leveled up. He entered the guild and saw the other guild members busy chatting with each other and discussing missions. He didn't know anyone in the guild, so he didn't speak with anyone and just went straight to the adventurer reception. As Banaza faces the receptionist, he immediately explains to him that the ranks of adventurers are determined by their performance. She continued explaining to Banaza that if the member's rank rises, the member can take harder requests that fit their rank. The ranks are E, D, C, B, A, and S as the highest. As the difficulty increases, the reward increases too. The receptionist added that the member can still make requests even if they aren't part of the association, but the compensation will be decreased. By joining the Adventurers Association, the guild offers free treatment for any injuries from the guild's magicians, so the receptionist recommended that Banaza register with the guild and ask what Banaza likes to do. Banaza agreed to join the guild since he already planned to join a guild to earn money. The receptionist asked him to pay 1 silver coin for the registration fee. Banaza insisted that he didn't get any silver coins from the castle, so he asked if he could pay with gold coins. The receptionist accepts it and says that there's no problem. In Cryo, 1 gold coin is equivalent to 10 silver coins. Banaza is ready to give the coin to the receptionist, but he thinks that it is quite hard for him to accept the money since he didn't even work for it. However, he doesn't have any choice since he doesn't have any money yet aside from the money given by the king. As Banaza paid the registration fee to the receptionist informed Bonanza that his registered information is magically imprinted into the dog tag plate, so he needs to be sure to bring his plating to the reception when the quest has been completed. The receptionist started to ask Banaza what name he would like to register on the dog tag. This gives Banaza chills and remembers that the maid knows her name and called him Banaza-sama. So even if he changes his appearance, if he has the same name, it will be a problem for him since the king commanded him not to go back to the town or castle. The receptionist is still waiting for Banaza to answer and ask him what happened. Banaza, just keep quiet and think of a different name. He looks to the receptionist and smiles, then he asks to register his name as Filio. He is faking his smile just to conceal that he thinks of another name and make it look natural. He is now Filio. The receptionist started typing his name on the dog tag while Banaza is holding his neck because of the relief of the situation earlier. He just immediately answered and provided the name of his old dog. Something caught his attention. There was commotion, and some members of the guild were speaking with someone. Filio gets near the commotion and listens to what they are trying to discuss. He saw a girl asking for an escort mission. She was asking if the members could guard her until she reached the forest of Delaveza. He was surprised seeing a small woman or a girl in a place like a guild where people inside are tough. As Filio continued to listen to the girl, The girl insisted that she would like to ask for a bodyguard. The members answered the girl that no one would want to go on a 20-day trip, and they insisted that if the girl had a carriage and would provide free meals, they would be willing to accept the request. The girl looks like she doesn't have any carriage and meals to offer, so she keeps quiet and thinks, while Filio hears the conversation and remembers that the forest of Delaveza is the forest he was in before. Filio started walking towards the little girl, who was thinking and waiting to see who would accept her request. Filio didn't hesitate and asked the little girl if he could bring the girl to the forest. The little girl insisted that the rewards aren't that high and asked Filio if it's right with Filio. However, Filio just tells the girl that he has been to the forest of Delaveza before and insists that if it's about just going to the forest, he can teleport together with the girl using the spatial magic. Everyone was shocked by what they heard and looked at Filio and checked him from head to toe. They started to analyze and check if Filio is just bluffing. Some murmurs and can't believe that Filio, as a young man, can use teleport magic. They thought that Filio is just lying and should think of a better lie instead. The other member of the guild insists that he's just an E-rank adventurer and thinks he can use the teleport magic even though he can't. Filio can't understand why everyone thinks he's bluffing and can't believe that he can use it. He thinks that the teleport magic is a beginner-level magic since it doesn't use that much magic power. Suddenly, someone pointed a sword at him and asked him to get away from the girl immediately. Filio didn't move and wondered why they were asking to go away. Filio tried to look who was pointing the sword at him and saw a girl. He couldn't understand why the girl was pointing the sword at him. The girl looks like a member of the guild, and the girl asked Filio about the spatial magic he can use. The girl is also not believing him since she doesn't see Filio as being an advanced magician who can use spatial magic, and she asks Filio what Filio's purpose on helping the girl. Filio raised his hands to show that he surrendered and answered the girl's question, but he was interrupted by another girl who informed him that a few days ago, no one would accept a request, and now someone wants to take it without much compensation. The girls think that Filio is suspicious as he wants to accept the little girl's request. Another girl showed up again, and they added that perhaps Filio is aiming for the little girl's body. They called Filio as Mr. Lulakan, who has something to do with abduction, enslavement, and human trafficking. Some members of the guild inside recognize the girl pointing the sword at Filio. The girl's name is Bali Rosa, the Knight's Order of Cryo. There are rumors that the Knight's Order was going to dispatch someone, so they think that Filio was really a pervert and wanted to do something bad to the little girl. Filio can't answer the accusations against him because he can't believe that people think something like that about him. He doesn't care about the pervert thing. What matters to him is that it will be bad for him if the two knights who are from the castle recognize him. Another girl shows up, and it's a tall one. He stares at Filio while the Bali Rosa is still pointing her sword at Filio. The little girl was clueless about what was happening, so she hid behind the new girl who showed up. Filio raises his hand to signal that he has already surrendered. He just realized he must clear their suspicions fast, so he came up with an idea. He asked the knights of the castle to go with him as he escorted the little girl to the Delaveza forest. Filio added that the knight can also have all the rewards. Bali Rosa was shocked at Filio's action. She kept her sword and agreed with the offer of Filio. However, she added that if Filio has any suspicious movements, they will respond accordingly and will not hesitate to attack. So Filio just agreed with him. Filio asked the 4 knights to come with him, and they went into an abandoned alley because people won't see them if they do the teleportation there. Bali Rosa just commands Filio to do it and doesn't care about the explanation of Filio. They are waiting on Filio to cast the spatial magic, and the knights are protecting the little girl from Filio. However, Filio just assures them that they don't have to be that cautious and asks everyone to stand next to him before casting the spell to teleport. As they stand behind Filio, a magic circle appears below them and Filio casts the spell. He activated the spatial magic and they teleported to the forest of Delaveza. While the spell was being activated, the four knights were shocked and couldn't believe that Filio was saying the truth about his magic. The knights were surprised as they appeared in front of the forest of the Delaveza. One of the knights checked and verified that the place they just went to is definitely the forest of Delaveza. One of the knights is a magician and was so amazed by the magic power of Banaza, which is such a long-distance teleportation. She insisted that only an extremely high-ranking magician would be able to accomplish the magic that was used by Filio. However, Filio insisted that he is just a normal adventurer, and he can at least use the spatial magic. The magician, together with the knight's order, clarifies the name of Filio. He was shocked by the action of the knights, so Filio got nervous and answered immediately. Bali Rosa apologizes to Filio and asks excuse for her rudeness, because they doubted Filio and think that Filio is lying about his magic power. Bali Rosa kneels down to the ground and puts his right hand to her heart. She apologizes from the bottom of her heart. Filio waved his hands and said that it's fine as long as the doubt is cleared. He added that what he did seemed suspicious after all. Suddenly, the little girl was looking for something, and it caught the attention of Filio. He asked the little girl what the matter was. The little girl asked Filio why all the demonic particles were gone. She added that the forest of Delaveza is supposed to be covered in demonic particles. Filio felt pity for the girl because the girl was about to cry, and he tried to explain the reason for what happened. Suddenly, a note appears, and it says that it's dangerous to tell an individual of the demon race about the purification magic of Filio. He was stunned when he saw the notification bar, so the little girl asked him again. However, the notification bar shows that the female client is a demon, fallen wolf, current active magic, human transformation. Filio questioned himself whether the girl was a demon, and if the demons and humans did not get along with each other in Cry Road. Before Filio asked and clarified something to the little girl, Bali Rosa stopped him and apologized for getting Filio involved in that matter. Filio was so clueless about what happened and what the little girl and Bali Rosa were saying. Filio was shocked as the four knights stepped forward and started to pull their swords and weapons. They asked Filio to back up, and they got ready to attack, so Filio was so confused about who their enemy was. He was surprised when the four knights pointed their weapons towards the little girl. Filio tried to stop the knights and asked what they were doing. The little girl just stood and let the knights point their swords at her. Bali Rosa insisted to the little girl that it was the right time for the girl to reveal her true identity. She added that the girl wanting to go to the forest where the demons occupy is quite suspicious. The girl with the arrow and the girl with the wand are standing beside Bali Rosa, waiting for the little girl to move or talk. The tall girl among the knights asks Filio to take her hand, and she will tell the circumstances later. Then he also apologized to Filio since she doubted that Filio could use spatial magic. She stood in front of Filio and moved into a defensive position to protect Filio. Everything is new for Filio, and he is wondering if the knight already knows that the girl is a demon. Balirosa mentioned to Filio that the Cry Road Castle received a report from the Adventurers Association. Balirosa continues her explanation that several days ago, someone was recruiting people to go to the forest of Delaveza, and there was a suspicious girl. The cute little girl looks worried and sad. She just looks in the eyes of Filio, which makes him panic because he already knows that the girl is a demon and is looking for the other demon in the forest. The cute little girl started to move. His head went left and right slowly as her expression changed. She also started talking with a creepy voice. She said that the four girls sound just like a knight from a castle with such a bad mouth. The little girl's eye changes and turns into the eye of a wolf. Then she asks what she should do to the knights in front of her. The expression of the little girl makes the knights worry and terrified. They are stunned as they see the cute little girl transform into a wolf and introduce herself. The cute little girl earlier is the younger sister of Fengur, one of the demon kings for Devis. They call it Funlis, or a demon. The girl who transformed added that they are going to regret their decision. What will happen to Filio, Balirosa, and the other knights? Who is the little girl that transforms, and what are her motives in bringing humans into the forest? Follow for the next episodes. Feel free to suggest and comment on the next manga or manhwa. If you like the story, share it with your friends, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.